Welcome to week 10, where we focus on methods and approaches to language education. This is the last real week we have of content learning. So after this week, you're going to be moving toward focusing on your individual projects, the unit plan project, your PD project, and your final paper. So you'll have weeks where you're really working on finishing those up and then looking at some examples of your peers' final products and giving them some feedback. So last week, we're really digging into content. You're almost there. This week, we are going to learn about a wide variety of different approaches and methods that have been used historically to support students in acquiring a new language. A lot of the approaches and methods you'll be learning about are specifically geared or were designed for foreign language or world language settings. And some of them have been since then applied to supporting English learners or multilingual learners in mainstream classrooms, but not all. So you'll see a wide variety of different strategies and techniques that are embedded in these approaches and methods. And I hope you enjoy getting to dive into the long history of how students have been supported to learn a new language. So we'll begin with an introductory chapter or a framing chapter. It's in the Herrera and Murray book. And it's just a chapter that first we'll talk about the difference between approach, method, strategy, and technique. I'm not going to be a huge stickler on whether or not you master the use of these terms in the correct way, but I just want you to understand that each of these terms does have a slightly different meaning, with approach being the broadest term that's generally used to refer to a philosophical orientation, and then going to method, approach, strategy, and then technique. So you'll also in that reading get an overview of some of the methods that you'll be learning about and the approaches you'll be learning about this week. And there's a great chart that shows historically how these approaches were developed or these methods were developed and which ones are still in use today. After that, you'll move into the bulk of our learning this week, which is going into the 16 different methods and approaches that you'll be learning about. For each of those, I have linked between 1 and 3 sources, some that have videos that show what these approaches look like, some that just give you an overview or some details about what that method or approach looks like. So I've mentioned this in the website, but I just want to remind you that you do not have to read every single word of every resource that is linked. The idea is that you come away with a general understanding of what each of these methods is, and that you also have a deeper understanding of how the theories and research have shaped educational methods over time, and you have the ability to identify at least one pedagogical strategy that would be a part of that given method or approach. To help support you in this process, because learning 16 different strategies or approaches and methods is a lot, I've created a graphic organizer for you, a note catcher. So I'd like you to download that and use that to track your notes as you read. I've completed the first one for you, so I still would like you to look at the sources for grammar translation, but I've done that one for you as a model of what I'm looking for or what you might do as you read. Excuse me. And then you will be uploading that as a part of your discussion post for this week, and then responding to a few reflection questions. So moving on from the learning, the assignments for this week are, as I mentioned, the discussion post and completing that note catcher as you read. You also will be taking praxis quiz number 2, methods and approaches. Again, these are meant to be quizzes that you can take as many times as you want so that you can get 100%. The goal is just to give you some experience of the type of questions that the praxis will ask. And this week really is devoted to making sure you know the names of these approaches. I purposefully have this week at the end of all of our content learning, because while these approaches are important to know, it's more important to me that you understand you have foundational understandings for how to support students in learning to speak in a new language, write in a new language, and read in a new language, and make sense and comprehend in a new language. So I hope you feel like at this point you have that grounding and understanding of both theory and research, but also how it connects to practice. So here you're just learning all of the different ways and the different specific methods that have been designed to support language acquisition. And I hope as you're reading, you'll be making connections to the things that you've read about in the Gibbons text and in the other other readings and viewings for this course. So you have the discussion forum, you have your practice quiz, and then I just have 2 reminders at the end. Remember that your professional development project is due next week. It's due next Sunday, so make sure to get that in. You have to have completed the PD and then also have written your reflection, and you can look at the assignment description as a reminder of what I'm looking for there. And just to continue working on your school district-based problem or advocacy paper. I will give feedback if you would like to submit a draft, and I've included the deadline for feedback submission in the website or in the page for today. So let me know. It's optional, but if you would like feedback, I'm happy to provide that. So I hope you enjoy learning about all these different approaches and methods, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Happy learning.